New York City, private athletic club. Hot summer evening, 1923. Babe Ruth is working weights. Heavyweight champion walks in. 240 pounds of pure muscle, 15 fights, 15 knockouts. He looks around the gym at everyone training. Then he sees Ruth, and he laughs, loud, mocking. "Baseball players are weak. Swinging a bat isn't a sport. This is a sport," he says, flexing his massive arms. The gym goes silent. 20 witnesses, everyone waiting for Ruth's reaction. Ruth sets down the weight, stands up, says nothing, just reaches for boxing gloves, looks at the champion. 12 seconds, he says. "I'll give you 12 seconds. Prove it." 12 seconds later, the heavyweight champion is on the floor, and apologizing. But how did it get to this point? How does a baseball player end up in a boxing ring with a professional fighter? And what happened in those 12 seconds that made a champion beg for forgiveness? This is the story nobody talks about. The night Babe Ruth's hidden past collided with his present. The night 20 witnesses saw something that should have been impossible. Manhattan, July 14th, 1923, 3 days before the incident. The Yankees are in the middle of a hot summer series. Ruth is hitting well, but his body is showing wear. The long season, the constant travel, the pressure. His manager suggests he find a way to stay in shape during the off days. A teammate mentions a private athletic club in Midtown. Exclusive, high-end clientele. Boxers, wrestlers, serious athletes. Good equipment, privacy. Ruth likes the sound of that. Privacy. No reporters, no fans, no autographs, just training. July 15th, Sunday, Ruth's first visit to the club. The place is exactly as described. Converted warehouse space on West 42nd Street, brick walls, high ceilings, proper boxing ring in the center, heavy bags hanging from steel chains, weight equipment along the walls, speed bags, medicine balls, the smell of leather and sweat and liniment. Maybe 15 men training when Ruth walks in. They notice him immediately. Hard not to notice Babe Ruth. The doorman recognizes him, seems nervous. "Mr. Ruth, welcome. We're honored. The owner said you'd be coming. Please, use any equipment you like." Ruth nods, tips his hat to the men staring at him. Most of them nod back respectfully, but Ruth notices one man who doesn't. Big man, very big. Standing by the heavy bag, arms crossed, watching Ruth with an expression that isn't respect. Something else. Contempt, maybe. Amusement. Ruth ignores it. He's here to work, not to make friends. He changes in the locker room, comes out wearing simple workout clothes, black shorts, white undershirt. His body is exactly what you'd expect. Thick, powerful, but carrying extra weight. The kind of build that makes people underestimate what's underneath. He starts with basics, stretching, light cardio, working up a sweat. The big man is still watching, still hasn't moved from his spot by the heavy bag, just standing there, arms crossed, that look on his face. After 20 minutes, Ruth moves to the weights, starts with dumbbells, working his shoulders, his arms. The movements are practiced, familiar. This isn't his first time lifting. One of the trainers approaches. Older man, maybe 60, weathered face. "Mr. Ruth, if you need any assistance, I'm happy to help. I'm Eddie. I work with most of the fighters here. Appreciate it, Eddie. Just getting a feel for the place today." Eddie nods, hesitates. "I should mention, we have a few professional boxers training here. If they seem unfriendly, don't take it personal. Fighters are territorial about their spaces." Ruth glances toward the big man, still staring. "That one of your fighters?" Eddie follows his gaze. His expression changes, becomes careful. "That's Tommy Morrison. Heavyweight, undefeated, 15-0, all knockouts. He's fighting for the title next month. He always this friendly? Eddie almost smiles. Almost. Tommy's got opinions about athletes from other sports. Best to just ignore him. But ignoring Tommy Morrison is about to become impossible. Ruth continues his workout, moving to different stations, working hard, breaking a real sweat. And the entire time, Morrison is watching, making comments, not loud enough for Ruth to hear clearly, but loud enough for others to hear, loud enough for people to laugh nervously. After 40 minutes, Ruth is done. Good workout, he's satisfied, heads toward the locker room, and Tommy Morrison steps into his path. Not aggressive, just there, blocking. "You're the baseball player?" Ruth stops, looks up at Morrison, and yes, up. Morrison is maybe 6'2", 240 pounds. Ruth is 6'2" also, but 220, and some of that is definitely not muscle. "That's right." Morrison looks him up and down. That contemptuous smile. "You any good at baseball?" "I do all right. Hit a lot of home runs, they say." "My share?" Morrison nods slowly, like he's considering something. "Must be nice. Playing a kid's game, getting paid for it." "Real easy work." The gym has gone quiet. Everyone watching now, everyone knowing where this is going. Ruth's expression doesn't change. Still calm, still neutral. "It's a job, same as yours." "Same as mine?" Morrison laughs. "No, friend, not the same at all. I fight for my money. Real fighting, real danger. You swing a wooden stick at a ball. My sport requires actual courage, actual toughness. Your sport is for soft men who don't want to get hurt." Ruth is silent for a moment, just looking at Morrison, reading him. "You think baseball players are soft?" "I know they are. No offense to you personally, but yes, baseball, tennis, golf, rich men's games, not real sports." "What makes boxing more real?" Morrison smiles wider. "Because in boxing there's nowhere to hide. It's you and another man, and one of you is going to get hurt. That requires something most men don't have, something baseball players definitely don't have." Ruth nods slowly. "You might be right." Morrison seems pleased, like he's won. "Glad you can admit it. Takes character to recognize your limitations." "But I have a question for you, Tommy." "What's that?" "You said boxing requires courage because you might get hurt. What about facing a baseball thrown 90 miles per hour at your head? You ever done that?" Morrison's smile fades slightly. "That's different." "How?" "Because you have a bat to protect yourself." Ruth almost laughs. "The bat doesn't protect you from the ball. The bat is for hitting. If a pitcher wants to hit you, he hits you, and it happens 6 inches from your face." Morrison shifts his weight. "Still not the same as taking a punch from a heavyweight." "Maybe not. But I wouldn't know. I've never boxed professionally." Ruth pauses. "Have you ever played professional baseball?" Morrison's face hardens. "Why would I waste my time?" "So you're comparing your sport, which you've done, to my sport, which you haven't done, and declaring yours superior." Morrison's jaw clenches. "I don't need to play baseball to know it's easier than boxing." "Then prove it." The words hang there. Morrison blinks. "What?" "Prove baseball players are soft. Right here, right now. You're a professional fighter. I'm a professional baseball player. Let's see who's soft." Morrison looks around. The entire gym is watching. He can't back down now. His reputation is on the line. "You want to box me?" "Why not? You're certain you'll win. I'm soft, remember? Won't take you long." Morrison laughs. "But it's not quite as confident as before." "I'm a professional, Ruth. I'd hurt you. Seriously hurt you." "Then I'll learn my place." 12 seconds. Give me 12 seconds in the ring. If you can't prove your point in 12 seconds, then maybe baseball players aren't as soft as you think. The gym is electric now. This is insane. This is impossible. A baseball player challenging a professional heavyweight boxer to a fight. Morrison should walk away, should laugh it off. But he's trapped. Everyone is watching. Everyone will remember if he backs down. 12 seconds? That's all I need to know if you're right. Morrison looks at Ruth, really looks at him, trying to find the trick, the angle. But Ruth's face shows nothing, just calm waiting. Fine, 12 seconds. I'll try not to hurt you too bad. Ruth nods, starts walking toward the ring. Morrison follows. The entire gym gathers around, 20 men forming a circle. This is the craziest thing they've ever seen. Eddie, the old trainer, approaches Morrison. "Tommy, you sure about this? If you hurt him, the Yankees will sue the club. His face is worth millions in endorsements." Morrison waves him off. "I'll be gentle. Just teach him a lesson. He asked for it." Eddie looks at Ruth. "Mr. Ruth, please reconsider. Tommy's knocked out men twice your size. I appreciate your concern, Eddie, but I made my point. Now he has to answer." Morrison is already in the ring, bouncing on his toes, loosening up, looking comfortable, looking like a professional. Ruth climbs through the ropes, slower, heavier, less graceful. Eddie brings gloves. "At least wear these, standard 16-ounce. Protective?" Ruth slides them on. Morrison already has his gloves, looking annoyed at the delay. "We doing this or not?" "Who's timing?" Ruth asks. Eddie checks his pocket watch. "I'll count. 12 seconds from the bell." "There's no bell." Morrison smirks. "I'll say go." Eddie looks between them. Two men, one a professional destroyer of humans, one a baseball player who should know better. "Gentlemen, when I say start, the 12 seconds begin. If either man goes down, I stop the count. Agreed?" Both men nod. Morrison is smiling, already tasting victory, already planning what he'll say after. Ruth is expressionless, just standing there, waiting. But here's what nobody in that gym knows. What Morrison doesn't know. What even Eddie doesn't know. Babe Ruth learned to box when he was 8 years old. St. E. Mary's Industrial School for Boys in Baltimore. Orphanage. Rough place. The priests taught boxing to keep the boys out of worse trouble. Young George Herman Ruth, before he was Babe, before he was famous, spent 6 years in that school. 6 years learning to fight. And he was good. Very good. Won the school championship 3 years running, fought kids bigger than him, tougher than him, kids who had nothing to lose. But Ruth stopped boxing when he was 18. Baseball was his future. Baseball was safer. Boxing was the past. 15 years ago, he hasn't put on gloves seriously since, but the body remembers. Muscle memory doesn't forget. Eddie raises his hand. "Gentlemen, take your positions." Morrison bounces, shaking out his arms, absolutely confident. Ruth stands still, hands at his sides, gloves hanging loose. "On my mark, 3, 2, 1. Start." Morrison comes forward immediately. No hesitation. This is his world. He throws a jab, testing, fast, professional, aimed at Ruth's face. Ruth moves his head. 6 inches. The punch misses. Morrison throws another jab, harder, committed. Ruth slips it, barely moves, just enough. Morrison's smile disappears. Those weren't supposed to miss. He steps forward, throws a combination. Jab, cross, hook. 3 punches designed to overwhelm an amateur. Ruth blocks the jab with his left glove, slips the cross. The hook catches air where Ruth's head was a fraction of a second ago. 4 seconds gone. Morrison's expression changes. This isn't right. Baseball players don't move like this. Don't slip punches like this. He commits fully, throws a big overhand right, the kind of punch that ends fights, the kind of punch that has ended 15 fights. Ruth doesn't slip this one, doesn't block. He steps inside it, closes the distance, gets inside Morrison's reach before the punch can land, and throws his own punch. Right hand, short, compact, straight to Morrison's solar plexus, just below the sternum, where the diaphragm connects, where the nerve cluster lives. The punch lands with a sound like a drumstick hitting meat. Morrison's eyes go wide, his mouth opens. No sound comes out. His legs buckle, his hands drop, his entire body stops obeying commands. He staggers backward, hits the ropes, starts to slide down. Ruth doesn't follow, just stands there, watching. 10 seconds. Morrison is on one knee, trying to breathe, can't. His diaphragm has spasmed. The nerves are overloaded. He's gasping like a fish. 11 seconds, 12 seconds. Eddie's voice. Time. The gym is silent. Absolutely silent. 20 men staring, unable to process what just happened. A professional heavyweight boxer, undefeated, 15 knockouts, is on his knees, in 12 seconds, against a baseball player. Morrison finally gets air into his lungs, gasping, coughing. His face is red, his eyes are watering. He looks up at Ruth standing over him. Ruth extends a hand. Morrison stares at it. Pride says, "Don't take it," but his body is still trying to recover. He takes Ruth's hand. Ruth pulls him to his feet. Morrison is unsteady, embarrassed, humiliated. The entire gym saw. "What?" Morrison's voice is hoarse. "What was that?" "That was 12 seconds. Ruth removes his gloves. "You wanted to know if baseball players are soft. Now you know." Morrison is still trying to understand. "Where did you learn to punch like that?" Ruth hands the gloves to Eddie. "St. Mary's, Baltimore, long time ago, before baseball." "You boxed?" 6 years. School champion. Beat kids who had nothing to lose and everything to prove." "You're good, Tommy. Professional good. But I grew up fighting kids who fought for survival." Morrison looks at the men gathered around the ring, all of them staring at him. His reputation has just taken a massive hit. The undefeated heavyweight who got dropped by a baseball player. Morrison swallows his pride. It's painful. "I apologize. I was wrong. About baseball players. About you." Ruth nods. "Apology accepted. And for what it's worth, you're right that boxing requires courage." "It does. So does baseball. Different courage, different risks. But courage all the same." Morrison nods slowly, starting to recover. "That punch, what was that?" "Solar plexus. Shuts down the diaphragm. Oldest trick in the book. You held back." "It's not a question. Morrison can tell." "Of course I held back. I'm not here to hurt you, just to make a point." "If you hadn't held back?" Ruth looks at Morrison for a long moment. "Then you wouldn't be standing right now." The truth of that hangs in the air. Morrison extends his hand. Ruth shakes it. "I'd like to train with you sometime, if you'd be willing. Learn some of what you know. I'm here twice a week. You're welcome to join." Morrison nods, climbs out of the ring, heads to the locker room, dignity partially intact. But everyone knows what happened. Word will spread. The old trainer Eddie approaches Ruth as he's leaving. "Mr. Ruth, I have to ask. Why'd you really accept his challenge? You could have walked away, let him talk." Ruth considers the question. "Because men like Tommy need to learn that strength comes in different forms. He's strong, no question, but strength isn't just physical, and sports aren't just about one kind of toughness." You could have hurt him badly. You have that kind of power. That's why I didn't. Power without control is just violence. I learned that a long time ago." Eddie nods slowly. "You know, I've trained fighters for 40 years. I've never seen someone move like you just did. That wasn't amateur boxing. That was something else." Ruth smiles. "That was survival boxing, the kind you learn when losing means getting beaten up by bigger kids in an orphanage. You learn real fast how to end fights quickly. Will you come back? I'll be here Tuesday, need to maintain my conditioning. And if Tommy wants a rematch?" Ruth laughs. "Then I'll give him 12 seconds again. Maybe he'll learn faster the second time." But there won't be a rematch, because word spreads through the Manhattan athletic community like wildfire. The story gets embellished, gets exaggerated. By the time it reaches the newspapers, it's barely recognizable. "Ruth knocks out heavyweight in training incident," one headline reads. The Yankees management is furious, calls Ruth into the office. "What were you thinking? You could have been hurt. You could have broken your hand, your face, ended your career." Ruth sits calmly. "I wasn't in any danger. He's a professional boxer. I'm a professional athlete, and I grew up fighting. I know my capabilities." The manager isn't satisfied. "We're adding a clause to your contract. No boxing, no fighting. Nothing that risks injury outside of baseball." Ruth accepts this. He's made his point anyway. Tuesday comes. Ruth returns to the athletic club. Nervous glances from the other members. Word is spread here, too. Tommy Morrison is there, working the heavy bag. He sees Ruth, nods respectfully. The contempt is gone. Ruth nods back. They train in the same space for an hour, not together, not talking, just existing in mutual respect. After the workout, Morrison approaches. "I told my manager about what happened. He didn't believe me. Said no baseball player could drop me." "What did you tell him?" "I told him he's wrong, that athletes are athletes. That toughness comes in different packages." Ruth smiles. "You learned fast." "I learned I was an idiot. I judged a whole sport based on ignorance." "We all do that. What matters is what you do after." Morrison extends his hand again. "No hard feelings?" Ruth shakes it. "None. I'm fighting for the title next month. Madison Square Garden. I'd like you to be there. Ringside, my guest." "I'd be honored." The fight happens on August 18, 1923. Tommy Morrison versus the heavyweight champion. Ruth is there, ringside, as promised. Morrison wins by knockout in the 7th round, becomes champion. After the fight, in his dressing room surrounded by press, Morrison is asked about his victory. "How did you prepare differently for this fight?" Morrison glances at Ruth, standing in the corner. "I learned that toughness isn't just about size or strength. It's about heart, about respecting your opponent, about never underestimating anyone. A friend taught me that." The reporters don't understand the reference. But Ruth does, and Morrison does, and that's enough. The story of the 12-second incident becomes legend in certain circles. Athletic clubs, training facilities, places where fighters and athletes gather. The details change with each telling. Some versions have Ruth knocking Morrison completely unconscious. Others have them fighting multiple rounds. But the core truth remains. Babe Ruth, baseball player, accepted a challenge from a professional heavyweight boxer and proved that athletes from different sports possess different but equally valid forms of toughness. Years later, in 1931, a sports reporter doing a feature on Ruth's training regimen asks about the incident. "Is it true you once boxed Tommy Morrison?" Ruth, older now, close to the end of his career, smiles. "We had a disagreement about the nature of athletic toughness. We resolved it." Did you really drop him in 12 seconds? The details aren't important. What's important is that we both learned something that day. What did you learn? Ruth thinks about the question. I learned that pride makes men do stupid things, including me. I could have walked away from Tommy's challenge. Should have. But my pride wouldn't let him disrespect my sport. And what did he learn? That assumptions are dangerous, that judging people without knowledge is foolish, that every sport requires its own kind of courage. The reporter writes this down. Do you regret it? The fight? I regret that it was necessary. But I don't regret standing up for baseball players everywhere who get told their sport isn't real or isn't tough. We face different challenges than boxers, but they're still challenges. They still require courage. The story fades from active memory over the decades. Tommy Morrison's boxing career is remembered, his championship reign, his fights. But the incident with Ruth becomes a footnote, something mentioned in obscure training manuals, a story told by old-timers in gyms. But the 20 witnesses who were there that night never forgot. They saw something that shouldn't have been possible. A baseball player moving like a professional fighter, throwing a punch that dropped a heavyweight champion, proving that athletic ability transcends individual sports. One of those witnesses, now in his 80s, gives an interview in 1964, asked about the greatest athletic moment he ever witnessed. I saw Babe Ruth box Tommy Morrison in 1923. Private athletic club. Ruth put him down in 12 seconds with one punch. That's the greatest thing I ever saw. Not because of the knockout, because of what it represented. The idea that greatness in one field can translate to greatness in another. That true athletes possess abilities that transcend their primary sport. The interviewer is skeptical. Babe Ruth? Boxing? Are you sure this happened? The old man smiles. Son, I was standing 5 feet from that ring. I saw the whole thing. Tommy Morrison was undefeated, 15-0, all knockouts. And Babe Ruth, with one punch, taught him the most important lesson of his career. Never underestimate your opponent. Never judge a book by its cover. And never ever tell an athlete from another sport that they're soft. That lesson, learned in 12 seconds on a summer evening in 1923, echoes through sports history, not in headlines, not in record books, but in the quiet understanding that toughness, courage, and athletic excellence come in many forms, and sometimes, just sometimes, those forms collide in unexpected places.